I'm not gonna lie, this topic kind of makes my heart drop. It's really like near and dear to my heart, but it shaped me quite a bit, so it's fitting that I have to talk about it in my podcast. But when people say that friendship breakups hurt like beyond any words can describe, they are 100% correct. Me in particular, I have had a friendship end in my past. The end of this friendship caused me to go on a long journey of self-realization that I'd never even knew that I needed. I learned a lot about myself because I was so devastated. But it's been years now. I'm 19 years old, I'm recovered, so I can talk about it. A part of me is afraid of saying how many years, because even though this is my secret podcast channel, like, I couldn't imagine if said person ever comes across this. I do not want them to know this time about them. Anyways, a part of me, when I reflect on this relationship, it causes a disconnect between my mind and my heart, because I have the knowledge that this relationship, the state of it when it was on its way towards the end, wasn't conducive to a long-lasting or healthy friendship. Although in my heart, I love to reminisce. And I've said in a past podcast how, like, reminiscing really gets me sometimes, because I'm like, Chiatica, girly girl, it's over. Stop reminiscing. But I can't control it, and I just like to let myself feel sometimes. There's a song, and in that song they're like, did you have to let it linger? And unfortunately, you have to let it linger, and I let it linger. I did let it linger, okay? It comes to a point where dwelling on said former friendship is causing you more pain than it is causing you to, like, have an outlet to release or let go of those emotions, you know, coming to terms with the ending of it. But, like, that's still, as much as I try to logicalize it, I don't know if that's a word, as much as I try to be logical with how I deal with the ending of said friendship or how I dealt with the ending of said friendship, I'm still a human being and I still feel it, you know. As much as logical as I'd like to be, you know, I still have emotions, and my emotional side is, you know, just as big of a part of me as my logical side. And sometimes it bothers me so much how I reminisce on somebody who's no longer in my life, because it's like reminiscing, yes, it can bring back happy memories, but it can also bring back, you know, memories of, dang, I wish they were still here. Even me saying that right now, I hate admitting that. Admitting that is kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie. And then a part of me is like, but Chiatica, we've gone all these years without speaking to each other. We have each other's social media. If need be, one of us could contact each other, and neither of us have. And that has to mean something. That has to at least tell me something, you know? That it's over. That I guess the conclusion of it was necessary. And it's just like a tough realization to come to, because, you know, I feel like a part of me has always still wanted to be in contact with this person, and the fact that that's not happening, it hurts me. I will say, over time, I've become more indifferent to it, you know. I'm talking about it now because I remember when I used to really be into podcasts, before I even had my own podcast or even thought of starting my own podcast. I was listening to podcasts in order to help me, you know, cope with the ending of this friendship. So it just feels like full circle moment to have come over, like, the hump of the healing and going through all of the really hard emotions, to, like, now where it's like every aspect of my life, a good amount of the aspects of my life are different to when I was in said friendship with that person. So I'm kind of like far removed enough where I'm like, okay, let me talk about it. Once I heard a saying about how if something is making you sad, or if something is making you sad to the point of tears, like cry about it so hard to the point that there's literally no tears left to cry. And then anytime you have the urge to cry about it, that's why you're going to let yourself cry about it really hard one last time. But if you want to move forward, you kind of have to be strong in those urges to really dwell on that circumstance. This is more so about, moving forward than trying to dismiss your emotions or push back your emotions. So since you let yourself have that last cry session, you gotta move on. You have to be strong in order to work on building your life without said person, if that's the outcome that you want, because crying is only productive to a certain point. If you continuously let yourself dwell on it, it becomes counterproductive at a point, you have to admit. Even though I'm saying this, it is easier said than done, because me, myself, I'm such like a feely person. Like, I feel things so deeply. And yes, I did mention I am logical, but I am an empath. I feel like that's such a tacky thing to say, but it's the truth, okay? I am an empath, and I feel things so deeply against my will. The reason I say against my will is because, in a way, I kind of view people who are less empathetic and less feely, more so like logical and in their own world. I feel like those people have it easier in life because, like, they're moving without consideration. Like, they're just moving based off of their own needs and what they want for themselves. I sound as if like I'm describing myself as a saint. I am not that, okay? I am flawed. It's just, I'm saying I'm not a careless person. Innately, I am more prone to be considerate and notice the small things. And I feel like that's a blessing and a curse, because that requires a lot of energy. And sometimes it can lead me to invest more energy into other people than it does for my own self. And as much as I can say, like, people who are selfish, they have it easier, I really cannot say wholeheartedly that I wish I was heartless, or I wish that I was mostly self-concerned, because that wouldn't be true to myself. I will say some people look like they're loving that lifestyle, but that would not be true to myself. Although I feel like it would definitely help with being able to handle, hard things. I will say I've learned and I've grown. I gotta preface that before I say this. At first, when I did go through the ending of our friendship, I literally, I hate to say this, but I used to look for said person in other people. Like, if I met a new friend, I was like searching for her attributes within them. And of course I would be disappointed, because that's impossible. And even though maybe at the time I didn't see that as a good thing, I will say that does have its benefits, because of the fact that if that's impossible for me to find this person who used to be in my life in other people, that means there's better out there. I can find a better friend who makes me feel all the things and more, or who I feel connected to even more than I did prior friend. I will say at that time when I was dealing with this, I did not view it as a good thing. If anything, I was like, oh my gosh, like, nobody's gonna live up to this friend and blah, 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 blah. But that wasn't the right mentality at all to possess. I do think I needed to learn that firsthand. Somebody telling me this wouldn't have stuck with me at all. And I do have to admit, there's a point in time where I really had a heartless era, because of the fact that I felt so much pain as a result of no longer being friends with this person. I was like, I can only really relate myself to like this stereotypical archetype of a teenage boy who got his heart broken in middle school by one girl, and as a result, no matter how many years has passed, he becomes basically a demon, a terrorist to literally every single girl that crosses his path, because subconsciously he's vindicating his broken-hearted 5th grade self. which is inadvertently punishing literally every single girl he comes across. And in a way, he's just emotionally unavailable, and this is him poorly attempting to cope. Meanwhile, everybody else is basically just residual damage, if that even makes sense. And I hate how I'm relating myself and my state of being to a teenage boy. But that was the best example I could use. This is not a flex, this is a judgment-free zone. So I gotta be truthful in the way that I dealt with things. But if anything, I was kind of not being a good friend to the other people around me at all. And my excuse, how I justified it, was I'm going through this ending of a friendship. Like, how can you expect me to be a good friend? But like, that's not anybody else's problem besides mine, and me not being a good friend is making it other people's problem. I've lived and I've learned. Therapy is an amazing thing, okay? Therapy can help you deal with the past. Therapy can help you deal with unresolved emotional baggage. It can help you come to these understandings. I am a big proponent for therapy, okay? Because if you stay in that mentality, as I was describing when I was relating myself to like that teenage boy example, you as a result can impact future relationships that could potentially be even better than the relationship or the friendship that you were hurt by. Even now, years later, a part of me is trying to let myself be more vulnerable. It's tough, because I will say, I feel like I have a correlation between vulnerability and being hurt. More so, I feel like the more that I care about somebody, or the more attached I am, the more power that gives them to like hurt my feelings. Although I will say the opposite is true. The more that I care about somebody and the more attached I am to them, the more power they have to make me happy. And to me, that was such a tough realization, because of course I want to be happy, but it's like giving somebody that power to make me happy also came with giving somebody that power to make me sad. And why would I want to be sad? That was such a realization to me. And I've mentioned this in my past podcast. I feel like it's literally just allowing life to be like, have its ebbs and flows. There's a lot of duality in life. So in order to take the good, you got to take the good with the bad. You can't just have good, or nothing is going to feel good. That's going to be your baseline. You're going to always expect good. Then you can't even appreciate the good because of the fact that only good is happening. If that makes sense. I've said this before, but yeah, there can't be light without dark. In order for one concept to exist, the other has to exist. Also, I've heard this on the podcast and stuff, but there's a quote. It's better to have loved and to have lost than to have never loved at all. And honestly, during said year, this was happening. That was my anthem. That was my motto. Because those memories, I'll never forget how they made me feel during the good times. And it's just proof of the capacity that I have to feel happy or to feel joy in any potential future or current relationship. And said person's absence leaves space for new people. It leaves space for a new level of fulfillment, which is, it's exciting in a way, which provides me some optimism. It also allowed me to come to the realization that people are temporary. It's either, number one day, somebody you care about is gonna die, and then they're gone. Or, number two, the relationship is gonna come to an end, whether it be subtle or not subtle, as in, it's a quick split, maybe with drama in between, or it's just drifting away, growing apart as people. And with number one, the first option of said person dying, that's out of your control. No matter how good, no matter how healthy said relationship was, if that person dies, of course, the relationship is over. And that's gonna cause feelings of sadness. So these feelings are inevitable. And it really made me appreciate people's presence while they're there instead of being afraid of how something is gonna end. Because I try to view people as experiences. As I was saying, it's either one day they're gonna die, one day I'm gonna die, or one day the friendship relationship is just gonna end. And I feel like building resilience and how to cope with hard things is such a necessary trait in life. Because honestly, you're lucky if the worst thing that has ever happened to you was the end of a relationship. In a way, you are lucky. Because I feel like there's so many more worse, fatal outcomes that can happen to somebody in life. And building this resilience now is so necessary. I do have to make an exception though, like a non-familial, non-direct familial relationship, you know, because I will say death within a family can be really difficult to deal with. So I do have to make that distinction. I just mean like with relationships that like come and go, you know, or are meant to stay. But my point, emotional resilience is such a necessary trait to have, and unfortunately, resilience is only built through practice. You have to go through the hard things to build resilience. I will say, I feel like some people are more prone to being able to build resilience than other people, but it is a trait that can be learned through experience or practice, and it can help you when really, really, really difficult things come in life, which is out of your control, unfortunately, if they do come, and how you're gonna pick yourself back up, because life keeps going. You gotta keep going. Even though I kind of said how like people who don't feel as deeply, they're kind of lucky because they may not seem as impacted by things, I think it's kind of beautiful to be able to feel so deeply and to be able to experience the highs and the lows of life like that. I think it's necessary to be able to like bring yourself to some sort of like equilibrium, but having the ability to feel like the highs and lows, I think, is a blessing in a way.